Early Harappan culture was also evident in parts of Rajasthan, Haryana and Chandigarh. For example, we have the site of Panov Alley, where the earliest layer shows affinities to early Harappan culture, predating the mature Harappan level, which would be flourishing in Panov Alley from about 2500 BCE. Surajbhan had conducted extensive explorations in the Ghaggar Valley in Haryana, and here he found at least 3 sites which were very important and yielding evidence for early Harappan layer, that is Siswal, Mitathal and Daulatpur. Early Harappan level has also been evident in many sites in Rajasthan, Haryana and Chandigarh. At many of these sites, actually, the mature Harappan phase was found to be overlaying a lower level of early Harappan. For example, at Banavali, we find that beneath the mature Harappan layer, there is one layer which belongs to the early Harappan level. At the same time, in Haryana, for example, we find that there are sites where we do not have much evidence for mature Harappan phase, but we definitely have evidence for early Harappan levels. In Rajasthan, again, we find that the site of Kalibangan, which was actually a very well-known mature Harappan site, we find that there is an early Harappan level which is quite extensive. It is also yielding very interesting evidence which we shall discuss later. Similar things were also found to happen in Gujarat, and this needs some detailed discussions. At Gujarat, for example, we find that there are different zones where we find that non-Harappan Chalcolithic cultures evolved. All these cultures are identified by the typical potteries that they used. For example, at Lothal and at Rangpur, we find an early phase preceding the mature Harappan levels, which is identified by the ware that they used, which is called the micaceous red ware. Again, at Padri, which is generally denoted as a mature Harappan site, we have an early level where the use of the Padri ware actually indicates that some kind of a local indigenous Chalcolithic culture had pre-existed the mature Harappan culture there. This is also evident at the excellent mature Harappan site of Dholavira as well as at Harappa. Of course, the culture which precedes the mature Harappan level at Dholavira is different from the culture that precedes the mature Harappan level at Harappa. They are two different cultures, but the presence of these early Harappan traits show that indigenous Chalcolithic cultures were already there, on the top of which some sort of uniformity was achieved at the cultural level, leading towards what was to develop as the mature Harappan culture. The Gujarat complex is extremely interesting, and there are different theories being provided by the local excavators like V.H. Sonawane and others, who think that the early Harappan cultures should not be labeled as early Harappan per se. They are local indigenous Chalcolithic cultures which do not have any affinity with the Harappans as such, but they had a direct contributive role to the emergence of the Harappan culture in these regions. And the zones in Gujarat where such activities are evident are the Kutch region, where at Dholavira we find that the presence of a non-Harappan preceding Chalcolithic culture actually probably paved the way for the mature Harappan culture there. Similarly, in Saurashtra, we have such evidences from Lothal. In the northern Gujarat, we have such evidence from Loteshwar. Now, there are distinctive potteries representing such zonal developments. For example, Padri belongs to the Saurashtra region, Padri ware. The Anartha ware represents the northern Gujarat sequence, and the micaceous red ware represents the upper Gujarat region.